A woman without wolves worthy to be a queen. As Celine's nails dug into my chin, I smelled Rowan's musk between her fingers. An hour later, the same hands, holding goblets, wrote on Alistair's wedding invitation, "To the lowly Alara, welcome home to die." No one knew that the moment I threw that invitation into the fireplace, the flames swirling around the rose wax seal, the mark of the northern moon goddess burned down my spine, as if to tear it in two. If fate decrees my death, then I will walk step by step towards the throne at the wedding, trampling their arrogance.
Welcome to Luna's Romance Stories. Read the entire novel in one go. Message or comment to tell me what kind of story you'd like to read. Subscribe to the channel for daily updates. Luna reminds you, the story begins now.
My name is Ella Wynne, a monster born without wolves. In this world where wolves reign supreme, my birth was an original sin. My father was the chieftain of the Moonshadow tribe. My mother was a noble white wolf, and I was the shame they least wanted to mention. Waste. The cold wooden spoon struck my forehead, and scalding hot broth splashed onto my face, burning with pain. I lowered my head, my long hair obscuring my eyes, and also my father's eyes, which were filled with disgust. "You can't even hold a bowl of soup properly. How could I have given birth to such a useless thing as you?" The mother's shrill voice pierced the eardrums. I dared not wipe it. I dared not even breathe. At the other end of the long table, my sister Celine was gracefully cutting the roast meat on her plate with a silver knife. She didn't even look up at me, as if I were just a piece of furniture that had dirtied the carpet. This is my daily routine: beatings, curses, endless humiliation. They deprived me of the right to receive wolf, clan education, and combat training, imprisoning me like a canary with broken wings in this magnificent cage called home. My only glimmer of light is Rowan Hale. He is the son of the tribal elder, a top candidate for the next tribal chief, and also my childhood sweetheart. At night, as I curled up in my cold, simple attic room, silently licking the burns on my face, there was a gentle knock on the window. I immediately turned my head, my heart pounding uncontrollably. Outside the window, Rowan's gentle and handsome face was clearly visible in the moonlight. He smiled at me, skillfully climbed in, and stuffed a still warm oil paper package into my arms. "Eat up. It is freshly baked honey bread," he said, taking out some ointment, dabbing a little on his fingertip, and carefully applying it to the wound on my forehead. The cool touch relieved the burning pain and smoothed out the wrinkles in my heart. "Does it hurt?" he asked softly. His brows furrowed, his eyes almost overflowing with heartache. I shook my head, staring at him greedily. Only in his presence did I feel like a person, not a worthless piece of trash. He gently embraced me, resting his chin on the top of my head, and sighed. "Ella, wait a little longer. Once I inherit the alpha position, I will definitely marry you, and no one will dare to bully you again." I buried my face in his warm embrace and nodded vigorously. Rowan, he was the only moonlight I could grasp in the boundless darkness. For his words, I was willing to endure anything. There is only 1 month left until my coming of-age ceremony. These days, the atmosphere in the tribe has become increasingly tense, and my father's gaze towards me has grown colder. A wolfless person who cannot awaken his wolfish nature will only become a laughingstock for the entire Moonshadow tribe at the coming of-age ceremony. The only one I am looking forward to is Roman Tam. He said he would ask his father for her hand in marriage after his coming of-age ceremony. However, I haven't seen him for 3 days. Anxiety clung to my heart like vines. Late at night, under the moonlight, I quietly slipped out of the attic, intending to go to the training ground to find him. That was his favorite place. As I approached the dense forest behind the mountain, I heard the familiar, charming laughter of my sister Celine. "Rowan, do you really think you would give up the future position of clan leader for nothing without wolves?" My feet froze on the spot, and my blood seemed to freeze at that moment. I hid behind a huge fir tree and witnessed a scene I will never forget. Me sister Celine, that eternally aloof and perfect princess, is now coiled around Rowan like a water snake. And Rowan, my gentle and upright Rowan, who promised to protect me for life, is holding her and kissing her in the moonlight. I didn't. Rowan's voice carried a hint of struggle, but his hands were tightly wrapped around Celine's waist. No? Celine chuckled, her voice full of smugness and mockery. Then why did you accept my father's proposal? If you and I were to get together, he would fully support you becoming the next alpha. And what can that good, for nothing Ella offer you? I felt like the whole world was spinning, and all I could hear was a buzzing roar. Celine seemed to sense something. She suddenly turned her head, her gaze landing precisely in the direction where I was hiding, upon seeing my pale face. She didn't panic. Instead, she smiled even more brightly. She deliberately tightened her arms around Rowan's neck, planted a heavy kiss on his lips, and then, in a triumphant gesture, said to me, word by word, "Ella, look carefully. A wolfless person is not qualified to be any alpha's partner. Rowan is mine, and the position of future clan leader is also mine." Rowan finally pushed her away, turned around, and saw me. The color drained from his face instantly, his eyes filled with shame, panic, and a hint of relief. He opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything, and awkwardly avoided my gaze. At that moment, I felt something inside me shatter completely. The moonlight that kept me alive has gone out. I don't know how I got back to that cage. The next day, I packed my few worn-out clothes into a small bundle without any expression. When I came down from the attic with my bundle, the family was sitting at the dining table. Rowan and his father were there too, and they seemed to be discussing something important. All eyes were on me. The mother frowned and scolded. "What are you trying to do, looking like that? Go back to your room." I didn't look at her, nor at the man who had broken my heart. My gaze was fixed on my father, the chieftain of the Moonshadow tribe, seated at the head of the table. I spoke calmly and clearly, my voice not loud, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "From this day forward, I have nothing to do with you." There were no cries, no questions, only this one sentence like a sharp knife severed me from everything here. After saying that, I turned around and walked step by step toward the door. "Stop right there, you unfilial daughter." My father's roar exploded behind me. "If you dare walk out this door, you'll never come back, you'll die out there." I didn't stop. It is better to die outside than to live here. Rowan's anxious voice came from behind. "Ella," I finally paused for a moment, but didn't turn around. "Goodbye, Rowan, and goodbye, my pathetic, foolish love." I pushed open the heavy wooden door and resolutely stepped out. Outside lay the legendary northern forest, teeming with wild beasts and fraught with danger. The cold wind blew through my long hair, carrying a chilling sense of freedom. I went inside and never looked back. On the 7th day after I left the territory of Wen, the north was blanketed in its last snowfall of the year. The snowflakes, large as torn pigeon feathers, blanketed my eyelashes, melting into tiny ice needles in the blink of an eye. I wrapped myself tightly in the gray cloak I'd stolen from the old laundry. The soles of my boots were worn through, and with each step, the chill crept into my bones. Yet I didn't stop. Behind me burned shame. Ahead lay unknown darkness, and I'd rather be swallowed by the darkness than turn back. The forest lost its boundaries at night, the shadows of the fir trees like rows of black, armored knights. I carried a broken branch as a walking stick, the end stained dark purple with blood, a remnant from a daytime fight with a lynx over berries. I was so hungry my vision blurred, yet I still stuffed the last handful of frozen blueberries into my mouth, the sourness making my teeth bleed as I bit into them. Just then, the wind shifted, and a pungent, metallic smell of rotting flesh assaulted my nostrils. My body tensed, and my heart pounded in my ears. In the darkness, the first green flame lit up, then the second, and the third. 3 stray wolves, their fur mottled, their ribs forming a pale, bony fence beneath their skin. Saliva clung to their mouths, and my reflection shone in their pupils, a emaciated prey, still panting. I gripped the dry branch tightly, calculating in my mind, if the wolf on the left pounced first, I would poke its eye socket with the tip of the branch, then roll to the right flank to try and make a way out. But just as the calculations were forming, the wolf on the left had already turned into a gray shadow and soared into the air. Instinctively, I raised my arm, its teeth biting into the dry branch. With a snap, wood chips flew everywhere, and the impact knocked me backward, my head hitting the rock with a deafening boom. The other two wolves seized the opportunity to attack from both sides. One bit my calf, the tearing sound like rags being ripped apart. The other went straight for my throat. Hot, bloody breath sprayed onto my carotid artery, and I smelled the sour stench of fermenting death. On the verge of death, time suddenly slowed down dramatically. I saw snowflakes suspended in the moonlight, like shooting stars frozen in time. I saw my childhood face, pressed into a snowdrift, superimposed on this moment. I saw Rowan standing at the stable door, his sleeve stained with Celine's lipstick. It turns out that before death, a person really does fold their entire life into a thin shard of ice. I let out a final whimper, not a cry for help, but a farewell yet. The darkness was cleaved by an even darker shadow. The wind pressure plummeted. Snowflakes swirled back. A black wolf, larger than any wolf I had ever seen, swooped down from the night sky, its silver eyes flashing coldly in the shadows. It bit the neck of the stray wolf that had attacked my throat, tossing it 10 meters away like a sack of potatoes. The second stray wolf released its grip, turning to flee, only to have its spine crushed by the black wolf's hind paws, producing a cracking sound like a baby's cry. The third darted into the bushes with its tail between its legs, the black wolf not chasing, but raising its head and howling, the sound waves causing the snow on the branches to fall in a rustling sound. The sound was like a king proclaiming his territory, or some ancient summons. I lay on my back in the snow, blood pooling beneath me, forming a warm lake. The black wolf lowered its head, its silver eyes locked onto me, its nose lightly brushing my cheek, catching a whiff of rust mixed with blueberries. I raised my hand, my fingertips sinking into its neck fur. The fur even carried the cool scent of pine and snow. Consciousness vanished, like snowflakes swept away by the wind. In my final moments, I heard a very low human voice roll from deep within the wolf's throat. Ilera. That voice seemed to have traversed countless stars and frosts just to call my name. I awoke again to a soft sea of clouds. My body sank into the down mattress, warmth washing over me like a spring tide, a stark contrast to the snowstorms of my memory. The fireplace burned nearby, pine wood crackling and sparking, the air filled with the sweet scent of cedar and beeswax. I blinked my heavy eyelids, my gaze sliding down from the ceiling mural. Angels and wolves dancing, a silver moon hanging above them, like a neutral and merciful judgment. Don't move. A low male voice sounded, hoarse with the morning mist. I turned my head and saw a strange man sitting by the bed. His black hair was slightly curly, with a few strands falling across his forehead, gilded by the firelight. His eyebrows were sharp, which only made his icy eyes appear even more profound and serene. He wore a dark gray knitted shirt. The cuffs rolled up to his elbows, revealing pale blue veins on his forearms and an old bite mark. At that moment, he was scooping medicine with a white porcelain spoon, the steam swirling between his fingers, as if coating him with a soft, charred glow. I tried to sit up, and a tearing pain immediately shot through my calf. Looking down, I noticed the wound was tightly bandaged. A pale golden ointment, smelling of bitter mint, seeped through the gauze. The man reached out and placed a soft pillow behind my back, his movements as gentle as if he were supporting a flower about to break. "Who are you?" My voice was hoarse and rough, as if it had been wiped by snow. "Alistair Knightwood." He paused, then added, "The Alpha of the North, and also the master of this castle." My heart clenched. the ruler of the self-established territory in the north, the legendary Black Wolf King, who single-handedly repelled 30,000 rebels. Yet now he sat on the edge of my bed, stirring the medicine with a silver spoon. His eyes lowered as if afraid to disturb a fragile dream. "Why did you save me?" I gripped the bedsheet tightly, my knuckles turning white. He didn't answer immediately, but instead scooped up a spoonful of medicine, blew on it to cool it, and brought it to my lips. The moment the bitter taste hit me, I wrinkled my nose, but then I heard him chuckle very softly, a chuckle as silent as falling snow. "Drink first," he said. "Once you're warm, we can talk about fate." I sipped the medicine. It was so bitter it made my tongue numb, yet strangely comforting. After finishing the bowl, he took a white handkerchief and wiped my lips. His fingertips accidentally brushed against my lower lip, like a spark, and I trembled. His eyes darkened slightly. He withdrew his hand and lightly wiped the side of his robe, as if erasing a warmth that shouldn't exist. 3 nights ago, I was patrolling the edge of Singya when I heard wolves howling. He finally spoke, his voice low and slow. That wasn't an ordinary cry for help. It was a call from the depths of my blood. When I arrived, you were lying in a pool of blood, your hand still protecting your abdomen, like you were protecting the last flame. I looked down and saw dried blood still under my fingernails, and instinctively pulled them back. But he reached out and cupped my fingers in his palm. His palm had calluses and the scent of pine, and it was almost burning hot. "Ilara Win," he said, as if chewing on his tongue. I swore before my mother's portrait that if my destined partner appeared, whoever she was, I would give up all my land to spend the rest of my life with her. I looked up abruptly, meeting his unfathomable pupils. There was no mockery there, only the unwavering certainty of a king who had made a decisive move, and a deep-seated tenderness. At that moment, it felt as if something scalding hot had pried open my chest, making a barely audible cracking sound. The fire in the fireplace gradually died down, and the reflection of the snow outside the window cast a deep blue hue in the room. I was still reeling from the words destined partner. From childhood, I had been taught that one without a wolf is not worthy of the mark. Yet this powerful alpha who commanded the entire North said that I was his destiny. I tried to regain my composure, but my voice trembled and became incoherent. You must be mistaken. I don't have a wolf, and I don't have pheromones. He suddenly leaned down, his forehead touching mine, our breaths mingling into a white mist. We were so close. I could see the tiny snowflakes clinging to the tips of his eyelashes, like a handful of shattered diamonds. "Breathe in sync with me," he commanded in a low voice, his tone unconsciously indulgent. I did as he said instinctively. After 3 long breaths, my heartbeat miraculously slowed down, but he still maintained that dangerously close distance, his nose lightly brushing against the bridge of my nose, as if checking some fragile porcelain. "Ilara," he called my name, his voice low and almost a whisper. In the ancient tales of the wolf clan, there is a soul whose wolf form was personally stripped away by the moon goddess, leaving only the purest inner fire. Such beings are called wolfless ones. Yet they possess the rarest mark, the moon god's mark. Only when they encounter their destined alpha will the mark awaken. I froze, recalling the burning blue and white lines on my back from last night's dream. He seemed to see through my hesitation, reaching out to unbutton the back of my robe. The icy touch made me flinch, but his palm covered my shoulder. His calloused yet warm palm felt like an invisible barrier erected for me. "Look," he raised his hand, and an ice mirror materialized in the air, reflecting the snow's light onto my back. I turned my head and saw a silver-blue moon pattern appear on my once smooth shoulder blade, its edges extending into vine, like shapes, flickering with my heartbeat, as if it were breathing with life. I was speechless with shock. He lowered his head, his lips lightly touching the mark, and placed a kiss, not of lust but of pilgrimage. An electric current surged through my spine, and I whimpered, my fingertips digging into his hair. That hair carried the scent of pine and snow, cool yet intoxicating. Fate drew me to save you, his voice muffled against my back, and also drew you to become my destination. I turned to face him, tears streaming down my face without warning. The tears landed on the back of his hand, burning his knuckles. The next second, he pulled me into his arms, as if embracing a lost homeland that had been found again. I pressed my face against his chest, hearing our heartbeats gradually synchronize. Thump, thump, like ancient drum beats, mending two pieces of our lives that had been torn apart by the world. It's safe here. He rested his chin on the top of my head, his voice low and husky but firm. Stay, okay? Not as a guest, but as my partner. I clutched his collar tightly, my tears soaking the fabric with dark stains. After a long while, I nodded. The movement so light it was almost imperceptible. He, however, seemed to have received the most solemn promise in the world. His arms tightening around me, almost as if he were melding me into his very bones. Stay, he said. Stay. These two words were like a lifeline, suddenly thrown in front of me in the deep sea of despair I was drowning in. I have no reason to believe him. A strange, incredibly powerful alpha, with an almost pious devotion, uttered the term destined partner, a phrase that only exists in ancient legends. This is absurd. It is like a beggar who is suddenly told she is a lost princess. My first reaction wasn't joy, but fear. What kind of scam was this? A trap more sophisticated and cruel than the cage in my house. But where can I go? Go back to that home. I'd rather be torn to pieces by wolves, die in the forest. I've tried once, and I failed. I looked at him. His silver, gray eyes held no trace of impurity, only a focused obsession I couldn't comprehend. It was as if I were a treasure he had searched for 1,000 years. My throat was dry, and in the end, I could only squeeze out a barely audible syllable from my stiff lips. Good. It wasn't about accepting his declaration, but simply about buying myself a chance to catch my breath. He seemed to see through my reluctance and reservations, but didn't point it out. The lines on his cold face seemed to soften a little. He nodded slightly to me, then got up and left the room, leaving me alone. The door was gently closed, shutting out his powerful aura. Only then did I dare to truly relax all my muscles, and I collapsed into the soft bedding. I looked around the room. Everything spoke of the owner's extraordinary status and wealth. The walls were made of polished, dark wood, adorned with tapestries depicting snow, capped mountains, and forests. The fire in the fireplace burned brightly, dispelling all the chill of the north. The pleasant scent of pine and snow in the air seemed to emanate from the man himself. Everything was too good to be true. I looked down at my body. The wound had been treated well, wrapped in clean linen bandages, and the ointment underneath had a cool herbal scent. The pain had lessened considerably. I tried to move, which aggravated the injury to my shoulder blade, causing me to gasp in pain. "Don't move." The voice rang out without warning at the door, startling me. I looked up. Alistair stood there holding a tray, seemingly surprised by my sudden movement, his brow furrowing almost imperceptibly. He came in and placed a tray on the bedside table. On it was a bowl of steaming meat porridge and a glass of warm water. "Your injury is serious. You need to rest," he said, and naturally picked up a spoon, scooped up a spoonful of porridge, blew on it, and brought it to my mouth. I froze completely. Growing up, apart from the food that Rowan secretly slipped to me when I was little, no one ever fed me. My mother would just throw cold leftovers at my attic door like they were to dogs. My first reaction was to dodge. His hand stopped in midair, not forcing but simply held up quietly. Those silver, gray eyes were fixed on me without any urging or impatience, only a pure, patient waiting. My heart is pounding. This feeling of being treated as a person is so unfamiliar that it terrifies me. I fear this is just the calm before the storm, and that after this bowl of porridge comes endless demands and humiliation. But my stomach growled at an inopportune moment. Since I left home, I haven't had a drop of water, and I've also gone through a life or death struggle, my body has already reached its limit. My face burned, and I lowered my head in embarrassment. A very soft chuckle escaped from his throat. "Eat it," he said, his voice softening. "It is not poisonous." I hesitated for a long time before finally opening my mouth. The warm meat congee slid down my throat, carrying a rich aroma that instantly warmed my stomach. It was a delicious taste I had never experienced before. Every grain of rice was cooked until soft and tender. The minced meat was juicy, and every cell in my body was clamoring for more. He fed me spoonful by spoonful, his movements steady and focused, as if performing a sacred ritual. I dared not look into his eyes, but could only stare at his well-defined hands. They were the hands of a warrior, strong and calloused, yet performing the gentlest of tasks. The bowl of porridge was quickly emptied. He put down the bowl and gently wiped the corner of my mouth with a clean cloth. I flinched as if I'd been burned. His movements paused again, and then he withdrew his hand. "I am sorry," he said softly. I was stunned. An apology, a powerful alpha apologizing to me, a penniless wolf, less individual. Why did you do this?" I finally asked the biggest question that had been lingering in my mind. "What do you mean?" "Save me, heal my wounds, feed me, all of that." I stared at him. "What exactly do you mean by destined partner? It's just a legend. For many people, yes," he admitted. "But for me, it is real." He looked at me, his silver, gray eyes reflecting the flickering firelight from the fireplace, like two burning nebulae. "When I found you, you were covered in blood, lying in the snow, barely breathing." His voice was deep, with a lingering sense of fear. At that moment, I felt my heart stop beating. An instinct from the depths of my soul told me that if I lost you, a part of me would die. This feeling is called destiny. I cannot understand. My existence is a stain on my own parents' lives, so how could I be someone else's destiny? "But I am a wolfless one," I said softly. This word was like a wound that would never heal. Every time it was mentioned, it reminded me of my incompleteness and insignificance. "I don't care," he answered without hesitation and with unwavering certainty. "You don't even know me. I will spend the rest of my life trying to understand." His words, each one like a boulder, crashed into my still heart, stirring up towering waves. Rowan had said countless sweet words to me, saying he would always protect me and that he didn't care that I didn't have a wolf. But when the pressures of reality came, he didn't hesitate to choose my perfect older sister, discarding me like trash. The man before him was 100 times stronger than Rowan, and his position meant he would face even more rigorous scrutiny. For him, a companion without a wolf would only be a disgrace and a burden. I don't believe it. I can't believe it. "What will your people think of you? Will they accept a wolfless?" I paused, unable to say the word. "Princess," he said for me, his tone calm yet carrying an undeniable authority. "They only need to obey my decisions. Who my partner is my decision, and only my decision." His words were filled with absolute confidence and assertiveness, leaving me speechless for a moment. "You should rest well." He stood up and tucked the blanket around me. "Don't think about anything here. No one can hurt you." He left with the tray, and the room returned to silence. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling with my eyes open. The scent of pine still lingered in my nose. My stomach felt warm, and my body was enveloped in the soft bed. Is this really a safe haven? Or is it a more magnificent cage woven with tenderness? I spent the next few days in this conflicted state of mind. Alistair kept his word. He would come to see me several times a day, sometimes bringing food, sometimes herbs, and sometimes just sitting quietly in the chair by my bed, reading his own book. He gave me absolute space, never overstepped the bounds, and never mentioned any topics that made me uncomfortable. He was like a patient hunter, waiting for his prey to emerge from the cave and lower its guard. And I am that trapped beast, driven to the brink of despair, yet filled with fear of the outside world. Me wound is healing at an astonishing speed. The ointment here works extremely well, and with plenty of food and rest, I was able to get out of bed and walk around in just a few days. It was the first time I stepped out of that room. Outside was a long corridor with a thick carpet underfoot that made no sound when you stepped on it. On the walls hung some weapons and animal hides that I couldn't understand. Everything here exudes an ancient and powerful aura. A young girl dressed as a servant saw me and immediately bowed her head respectfully. "Miss Ella," I felt a little uncomfortable. "Alistair, where is he?" "Alpha is in the study. I will take you there." She led me through several corridors to a huge double wooden door. "Lord Alpha is inside." I told her to step back, and I stood at the door. After hesitating for a moment, I raised my hand and knocked on the door. "Come in." I pushed the door open. It was a more spacious room than I had imagined. 3 entire walls were lined with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves crammed with all sorts of books and scrolls. Outside the huge French windows was a coniferous forest covered in snow, the sunlight reflecting off the snow and creating a dazzling spectacle. Alistair was sitting behind a huge desk, looking down at a document. He wore a simple dark gray shirt, the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing his muscular forearms. Sunlight streamed in from his side, gilding his hard features with a soft golden edge. Hearing the noise, he looked up and saw it was me. A hint of warmth instantly appeared in his usually somewhat aloof, silver gray eyes. "Can you get out of bed now?" He put down what he was holding, stood up, and walked towards me. I nodded, clutching the hem of my clothes somewhat awkwardly. "How are you feeling?" He walked up to me, naturally raising his hand to touch my forehead. I instinctively took a step back. His hand froze in midair, and the warmth in his eyes faded somewhat. I didn't know how to explain my reaction. The long-term abuse made me wary of anyone touching me. It was an instinct ingrained in my bones. "It is all right." He withdrew his hand and casually changed the subject. "Want to go for a walk? I'll show you around." He didn't press me further, nor did he show any displeasure. This perfectly balanced distance actually eased the tension in my heart. I followed him out of the castle. Yes, a castle, nestled in the embrace of the mountains. It is built of massive black stones, magnificent and solemn, like a sleeping giant guarding its territory below the valley. The territory was filled with neat wooden houses, and the streets were bustling with people. Everyone who saw Alistair would stop and bow, their eyes filled with awe and trust. They would also look at me curiously, their gazes filled with inquiry and surprise, but without the disdain and disgust I had felt in the Moonshadow tribe. "They don't seem afraid of you," I whispered. In my memory, the people of my clan felt more fear towards my father. "Why should we be afraid?" Alistair Tyr countered. "I protect them, and they trust me. This land is our home." Home. This word stung me again. He seemed to sense my change in mood, stopped, and led me to a secluded lookout tower. "From here, you can overlook the entire valley." "Ella," he suddenly spoke, his voice serious. "I know you don't believe in me, nor in destiny. You have many questions and many fears in your heart. I won't force you to accept anything." He turned to me, his silver gray eyes as clear as a cold pool in the sunlight. "But I hope you can give me a chance. A chance to prove that I am not the kind of person you imagine me to be. Stay here as my guest, or friend, until you are willing to trust me." He adopted such a humble attitude that it made me feel completely at a loss. The supreme ruler of a territory, a powerful alpha, is pleading with me, a penniless, wolfless being, to give him a chance. Does such a thing really exist in this world? Why, I couldn't help but ask, why me? What do I have that makes you want to do this? He was silent for a moment, then reached out his hand. This time, his movements were slow, giving me enough time to react. I didn't dodge. His warm fingertips gently touched my cheek, where there was a light-colored scar that my mother had given me when I was a child, when she hit me with a wooden stick. "I told you, what I saw was you. It is not about your identity. It is not about whether you have wolves. It is just about you." In your eyes lies the most resilient soul I have ever seen. You faced 3 stray wolves alone in the forest without flinching. You dared to sever ties with the past and step into unknown dangers alone. You are braver than any werewolf I have ever met. His thumb gently caressed my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. Someone like you deserves the best of everything in the world. My eyes suddenly felt hot, brave. No one has ever described me like that before. In their eyes, I am weak, pathetic, and a piece of trash who needs to rely on the strong to survive. Even I am starting to think that way. But in his words, all my struggles and suffering became proof of courage. A tear slid down unexpectedly, landing on the back of his hand. It was scalding hot. I hurriedly turned my face away and raised my hand to wipe it. I am sorry. An arm wrapped around my shoulder, gently pulling me into a warm and firm embrace. The scent of pine and snow completely enveloped me. This embrace was neither as compassionate nor as smug as the embrace of my father that I had imagined. It is just peaceful. It is filled with a reassuring power. If you want to cry, just cry, he whispered in my ear. Here, you don't need to pretend to be strong anymore. These words were like a key, instantly unlocking the long-sealed gate in my heart. 18 years of pent-up grievances, pain, resentment, and despair burst forth like a dam breaking at this moment. I could no longer hold back. I gripped the fabric of his shirt tightly with both hands, buried my face in his chest, and burst into tears. I weep for my dead love, for my trampled dignity, for the family affection I never received, and for my dark past where not a ray of light could be seen. I cried my heart out, gasping for breath, as if I were trying to pour out all the silt from the depths of my soul. And he, from beginning to end, simply held me quietly, gently stroking my back with his hands, silently supporting me. I don't know how long I cried until my voice was hoarse, and I was completely exhausted before I gradually stopped. I leaned against him, feeling like a dehydrated fish, utterly pathetic. "Are you feeling better?" he asked. I nodded, my voice hoarse and unlike my own. I felt a little embarrassed and tried to pull away from his embrace, but he didn't let go. "Thank you," I said in a low voice, my head bowed. "Thank me for what? All. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for not disliking me. Thank you for letting me cry like a child again." He chuckled softly, his chest trembling slightly. "In return," he said, "would you like to have dinner with me tonight?" His tone carried a subtle, almost imperceptible expectation. I looked up and met his eyes, which were so close to mine. My swollen, tear-stained face was clearly reflected in those silver-gray eyes. But I felt that it was the first time I truly saw what was in his eyes. It is not pity, it is not desire. Rather, it is a kind of extremely cherished tenderness. My heart skipped a beat uncontrollably at that moment. Perhaps it wouldn't hurt to try believing just once. I nodded slightly. Good. The dinner was held in a side room, which was smaller and warmer than I had imagined. Heavy carpets hung on the towering stone walls, and the crackling flames in the enormous fireplace bathed the entire room in a warm, honey-colored glow. A long, dark oak table, with tableware placed only at both ends, separated us by the flickering candlelight, creating a distance that felt both distant and intimate. I sat awkwardly across from him, twisting my napkin between my fingers, feeling like a beggar who had wandered into a royal palace. Every item here is exquisitely crafted. The silver cutlery gleams in the firelight, and the crystal goblets filled with red liquid are crystal clear. And I am still wearing that faded old dress, which, though cleaned by the servants, still has glaringly obvious wear and tear on the cuffs and patches. My cheeks started burning again. The crying I had just endured had exhausted all my strength and stripped away my last layer of pretense. Now, I sat here naked, all my disheveled and wretched state laid bare by the candlelight. He seemed to sense my embarrassment. "The chef here makes an exceptional roasted venison," he said, breaking the silence. "Try it." As he spoke, He personally picked up the communal fork and served me food. A sizzling piece of venison, exuding an irresistible aroma, was placed steadily on my plate. My heart skipped a beat. Serving food to others is an intimate gesture, usually reserved for couples. Rowan did it for me too, but his actions always carried a condescending tenderness, as if he were taking care of a pitiful pet. Alistair, however, is different. His movements were natural and fluid, carrying an air of entitlement and equality. It was as if I was born to sit here and receive his care. I picked up the knife and fork. My movements a little stiff from childhood. I'd always been in the corner of the kitchen, grabbing cold, hard scraps with my hands. I'd only ever seen such delicate tableware on my sister Celine's table. I clumsily cut the meat on the plate, the blade scraping against the porcelain plate with a piercing, sharp sound. My face instantly turned bright red, and I wished I could disappear into the ground. "Sorry," I said softly, putting down my knife and fork. "That is so embarrassing. I don't belong here at all." These plates were made by the first generation of craftsmen using white rock unique to the north. "They are very sturdy," he suddenly said. I stared blankly up at him. He picked up his knife and deliberately slashed it heavily across the plate, making a louder noise than I had just made. Then he winked at me, a sly glint in his silver-gray eyes. "Look, they love to sing." My heart felt as if it had been gently lifted by a warm hand. He wasn't mocking me, nor was he pitying me. He was coming to my rescue. My tense shoulders finally relaxed at that moment. I picked up the knife and fork again, and this time, although I was still clumsy, I no longer felt the mortifying panic I had felt before. I ate this meal very slowly. It wasn't because the food was so precious, but because of this belated and unprecedented respect. He didn't pry into my past, didn't inquire which tribe I came from, and didn't even mention the words destined partner again. He just chatted with me about trivial things. They talked about the snow and wind in the north, the animals in the forest, and the dusty old books in his study. His voice was deep and melodious, like a cello playing in the evening breeze. I was gradually drawn in, forgot my nervousness, and began to respond to him. "Have you read the book Tears of the Moon?" he asked. I shook my head. In my home, books belonged to my sister Celine and the gifted children. I didn't even have the right to touch them. It's a very interesting travelogue. It tells the story of a werewolf scholar who followed in the footsteps of the first priestess of the moon. His eyes showed longing. Legend has it that the priestess did not have the form of a wolf, but she could hear the voice of the moon goddess and soothe the most ferocious beasts. No wolf form. My heart skipped a beat. Then won't she be considered useless? The question slipped out of my mouth, carrying a sharpness and bitterness that I myself was unaware of. His movement of cutting the meat stopped. In the candlelight, his profile was sharply defined, like a sculpture of ice and snow. He raised his eyes, his gaze piercing through the flickering flame and landing on my face. That gaze was deep. Like the deepest lake in the north, I couldn't see what lay hidden within it. "In the eyes of a true strongman," he said, slowly and clearly, "the form of power is never the most important thing. A coward who possesses the power to destroy the world is still a coward. And a soul that is unarmed, yet dares to defend its beliefs, is itself the most powerful weapon." My breath caught in my throat. These words struck my heart like a heavy hammer. I have never heard of such a theory. In my world, power is everything. To possess a powerful wolf form is glory. To lack one is original sin, simple, brutal, and unquestionable. But he told me that the soul is more important than the form. Is that even possible? "You really enjoy reading?" I changed the subject, not daring to delve any deeper into this area that made me uneasy. "Yes." He nodded. "Books can take you to places you can't go." His gaze shifted to a huge map hanging above the fireplace. "Our world is vast, Ella. Beyond the Black Forest lies the endless sea, and beyond that the land of the rising Sunday. In the southern desert live orcs who resemble lizards. What we know is but a small part of the world." My gaze involuntarily followed his finger. The map, drawn on animal hide, was marked with place names I had never heard of before. My Greystone tribe was just an insignificant dot on the edge of the southern forest on that map. Wow, the world is so big. For the past 18 years of my life, I've been trapped at that point that is not even worth marking on a map, thinking that is the whole world. I want to see it, I said, my voice carrying a longing I myself was unaware of. My study is always open to you, he said with a smile, the curve of his lips gentle and sincere. After that night, my life changed dramatically. Alistair didn't treat me like a canary that needed to be kept in a cage, nor did he treat me like a weakling who needed his protection at any time. He gave me a separate bedroom right next to his master bedroom. The room was spacious and bright, with a huge window overlooking the entire forest. The wardrobe was filled with brand new clothes, from soft cotton dresses to practical leather trousers. On the dressing table, there are even bottles and jars whose names I don't know. For the first time, I had my own space, a place that can be locked, where I can do whatever I want, without worrying that someone might break in and verbally abuse or beat me. It took me a whole day to confirm that this wasn't a dream. I carefully touched every item in the room, the soft bed, the smooth wooden tabletop, even the wind blowing in from the window, all of which carried an air of freedom, beyond the material abundance. What impressed me even more was the spiritual respect shown to me. He kept his promise, and the study was completely open to me. It was the most magnificent study I had ever seen, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves on 3 walls, containing far more than 10,000 volumes. The air was filled with the pleasant smell of old paper and ink. I plunged in like a hungry mouse that had wandered into a barn. I started learning the most basic characters, studying day and night. Alistair didn't laugh at my ignorance. Instead, he found the most learned old man in the territory to teach me to read and write. He himself became another teacher of mine. You react quickly and are very agile. He suddenly appeared that afternoon when I was practicing the alphabet the old man had taught me in the backyard. He changed out of the fancy clothes that symbolized Alpha's status and into a simple black outfit. His long hair tied back, making him look neat and powerful. But you lack systematic training and just shoot randomly based on instinct. He walked up to me, his gaze sharp. I gripped the branch tightly, feeling somewhat resentful. It was through this random beating that I survived the jaws of 3 stray wolves. Don't believe me? He saw through my thoughts, and a slight smile appeared on his lips. Attack. I hesitated for a moment. Attack using the methods you are best at, he repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. The stubbornness deep within me was stirred up. Without further hesitation, I gripped the branch tightly and thrust it at him. I have no set rules, but I have speed and a fierce determination when pushed to the brink. However, all my attacks were like throwing a stone into the sea. He didn't even move a step. He simply sidestepped, blocked, and deflected my force. My branches couldn't even touch the hem of his clothes. After several rounds, I was already panting, but he didn't even have to breathe properly. See that? He easily snatched the branch from my hand and put his hand on my shoulder. Your strength is scattered. Although you are fast, your lower body is unstable, making it easy for your opponent to find a weakness. He gently pressed down on my shoulder, and a powerful force came through, causing me to lose my balance and fall to the ground. I looked up at him. He stood tall and imposing, the sunlight gilding his back like a god. My cheeks were burning, partly from exhaustion and partly from embarrassment. I want to learn. He held out his hand to me. His hands were large, with calluses on his palms from years of holding weapons. I looked at the hand, then at his deep eyes. There was no mockery in them, only earnest inquiry. As if possessed, I placed my hand on it. His palms were warm and dry. The moment he held my hand, a warm current flowed from his fingertips and went straight to my heart. With a single effort, he easily pulled me up from the ground. Starting today, I will teach you combat every afternoon, he said. His tone not one of negotiation, but of stating a fact. But I don't have a wolf form, I whispered to him. This was my deepest inferiority complex. Martial arts are usually designed for combat in werewolf form. What I taught you was the fighting style of a human. He released my hand and took a step back. Werewolves are indeed powerful, but relying too much on their beast form will cause them to overlook the potential of the human body. Your advantage lies precisely in the fact that you can only rely on this. His words once again overturned my understanding. What I always thought was a disadvantage, he actually said was an advantage. From that day on, my life became incredibly fulfilling. In the mornings, I would study and practice calligraphy with the old gentleman, and in the afternoons, I would learn martial arts from Alistair in the backyard. In the evenings, we would spend time together in the study. He would handle the affairs of the territory, and I would read. Occasionally, when I encountered something I didn't understand, he would put down his documents and patiently explain it to me. I was like a dried-up sponge, frantically absorbing knowledge and power. The physical wounds have long since healed, and the scars in my heart are also gradually scabbing over in this peaceful and fulfilling life. I started to get used to his presence. I've grown accustomed to the shivers that run down my skin every afternoon when he corrects my posture with his slightly cool fingers. He was used to spending his evenings in the study, the firelight from the fireplace illuminating his face, highlighting his focused and handsome profile. I've grown accustomed to the fleeting tenderness in his silver-gray eyes when he occasionally looks up and our eyes meet. Unbeknownst to me, a fortress called Alistair has been built in my heart. It is sturdy, warm, and makes me feel safer than ever before. But beneath this safety, a time bomb still lurks. My coming of age ceremony. As the day drew closer, that familiar, ingrained fear and shame began to quietly resurface. In the Greystone tribe, the coming of age ceremony at 18 is the most important ritual in every werewolf's life. On that day, under the moonlight, and witnessed by the entire tribe, the young man undergoes his first transformation, evolving from a child into a true warrior, and each of my coming of age ceremonies was a public execution. Ever since my first coming of age ceremony failed when I was 12. Every year my father would drag me to the ceremony and make me stand among all my peers, while others displayed their agile wolf form under the moonlight and received cheers from the entire tribe. I could only stand there alone, enduring everyone's scornful, mocking, and pitying gazes. Look that good, for nothing is here again. What a disgrace to the clan leader. How can she still have the nerve to stand here? If I were her, I would have killed myself by now. Those whispers were like countless poisonous needles piercing my skin. My father's face was ashen. My mother turned her face away from me, and my sister Celine stood next to Rowan, her eyes filled with the smugness and pity of a victor. And Rowan. He would come over, take off his coat and put it on me, and whisper, "Don't be afraid, I am here." But his protection felt more like charity, making me feel even more pathetic. Now, my 18th birthday, my coming of age ceremony, is fast approaching. Although I have left that place, the memory etched into my bones still sends chills down my spine. I started having insomnia and loss of appetite. Alistair quickly noticed my unusual behavior. "What is wrong?" During dinner, he frowned, as he looked at my almost untouched plate. "Not to your liking?" "No, it is delicious." I lowered my head, not daring to look him in the eye. "You've been spacing out a lot these past few days," he said in a deep voice. "What is on your mind? Can I tell him? Should I tell him that I am about to face the most humiliating day of my life? Should I tell him that I am a defective product who can't even possess the most basic wolf form? Will all the respect and equality he built for me crumble when he learns the truth? Will he look at me with that pitying, disappointed look, just like everyone else? I am scared. An unprecedented fear. I am just a little tired." I made up a lame excuse. He stared at me silently for a long time, so long that I felt I had nowhere to hide under his sharp gaze. In the end, he didn't ask any further questions. "If you are tired, get some rest," he simply said. "Tomorrow, I'll take you somewhere." The next day before dawn, he woke me up. A spacious carriage was parked at the castle gate, with thick blankets and food on board. "Where are we going?" I asked curiously, wrapped in the cloak he handed me. "Moon Goddess Lake," he said succinctly. Moon Lake is a sacred place in the north, where legend says that the moon goddess shed a tear, which transformed into this lake that never freezes. The lake's waters possess healing and purifying powers. After traveling for most of the day, the carriage finally arrived at its destination at dusk. The sight before me left me speechless. What a lake it was. The lake was as calm as a giant sapphire, nestled among the snow-capped mountains. The surrounding forests were covered in frost, shimmering like diamonds in the afterglow of the setting sun. The air was crisp and clear, carrying a faint, sweet fragrance. The whole world was so quiet that only the sound of the wind and our breathing could be heard. "So beautiful," I murmured to myself. Whenever a werewolf in my territory loses control of his emotions, I bring them here. Alistair stood beside me, his voice slightly swayed by the wind. The power of the moon goddess can soothe all restlessness. My heart skipped a beat. He did indeed notice my anxiety. He didn't press me, but instead used this gentle approach to comfort me. We lit a bonfire by the lake, and he sat across from me, handing me some roasted jerky. "Ella," he suddenly spoke, breaking the silence. "No matter what you've been through in the past, and no matter what you'll face in the future, remember this." He looked at me, his silver, gray eyes shining brightly in the firelight. "Here, in my territory, no one can harm you, not even yourself." My eyes instantly welled up with tears, including myself. Yes, these days, what truly torments me is not anyone else but myself. It is my inescapable past, my deep-seated inferiority complex. I nodded vigorously. "Thank you, Alistair." "Silly girl." He chuckled softly and reached out to ruffle my hair. His palms were warm and his movements were gentle, as if he were comforting a frightened little animal. My heart is finally at peace. Perhaps this year's coming. Ovage ceremony will no longer be a nightmare. I leaned against the blanket, watching the last rays of sunset swallowed by the night, and the stars began to twinkle one by one. A full moon silently climbed to the mountaintop. Today is my coming. Ovage ceremony. Under the most beautiful starry sky in the north, I sit beside someone who is willing to protect me. I closed my eyes, savoring this hard-won tranquility. However, just when I thought everything would pass peacefully, something unexpected happened. A burning, sharp pain suddenly shot through my back. Ah! I couldn't help but cry out in pain and curl up into a ball. The feeling was like someone had branded my skin with a red-hot iron. "Ella, what is wrong?" Alistair was shocked and rushed to my side to support me. "It hurts." I gritted my teeth, my forehead instantly covered in cold sweat. "It hurts so much." The burning pain spread rapidly, from one spot to my entire back, and then to every part of my body. It felt as if magma was flowing through my veins, threatening to burn me completely from the inside out. "Where does it hurt?" he asked anxiously, unsure of what to do with his hands. "There seems to be something behind me," I said with difficulty. Without hesitation, he tore open the clothes on my back. "My God," he exclaimed softly, his voice filled with disbelief and shock. I couldn't see my back, but I could feel my skin getting hot, and a complex sacred pattern was emerging and taking shape at a visible speed. After that excruciating pain came an even more terrifying feeling. An empty, frantic longing surged up from the deepest part of my body. My body is burning up, my blood is surging. What do I need? I don't know, but I instinctively feel that I need something to fill me. Otherwise, I will be completely torn apart by this emptiness and longing. My reason was rapidly fading, and the world began to blur in my eyes, leaving only the flickering firelight and Alistair's anxious face. His aura, the smell of pine and snow. For some reason, this scent, which I had long been accustomed to, suddenly became incredibly alluring at this moment. Like a traveler in the desert smelling sweet spring water, like a hungry beast catching the scent of blood. I want to get closer to him. Closer. My body pressed against him uncontrollably, and my hands instinctively grabbed the front of his shirt. Ella. He was stunned by my actions and immediately grabbed my wrist, trying to pull me away. Wake up! His touch was like a bolt of lightning, striking my entire body. The warmth of his skin and the powerful alpha aura emanating from him became the most fatal temptation for me. Not enough, I murmured unconsciously. Still not enough. The desire within me surged ever stronger, the burning heat almost driving me mad. At the same time, a strange, rich fragrance emanated from my body and quickly filled the cool air. It was a fragrance that defied description, a blend of moonlight, the first snow, and the scent of some unknown flower possessing a fatal allure. Alistair's body stiffened abruptly. I saw his pupils contract instantly, and a cluster of dark red flames ignited deep within his silver-gray eyes. That was the desire of a beast. His breathing became heavy, and the grip on my wrist tightened, almost crushing my bones. Damn it! He squeezed out the word through gritted teeth, veins bulging on his forehead, as if he was trying his best to suppress something. Alistair, I groaned in pain, my consciousness fading. I feel so bad. I don't know what happened. All I know is that I am about to die. Either I'll be burned to death by the fire within me, or I'll be driven mad by this insane craving. The man before me is my only salvation. The mark of the moon goddess. He stared intently at me, his voice terribly hoarse. It really is the mark of the moon goddess. The legend is actually true. A mark. What mark? I can't listen to anything anymore. My body instinctively compels me to seek something that can calm me down. I broke free from his grip and, like an octopus, clung to him desperately, burying my face in the crook of his neck, frantically drawing in the scent emanating from him that offered me a little peace. Get out of my way, he growled, shoving me away abruptly. I fell heavily onto the snow, the cold ground bringing me to my senses for a moment. I saw the struggle and pain in his eyes. His tall frame trembled slightly, his fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He was resisting the fatal allure emanating from me, and also resisting his most primal instincts as an alpha. Don't come near me, he growled, backing away step by step as if I were the dangerous beast. My heart felt like it had been pierced by an icicle. He is disgusted with me, just like everyone else. When I become strange or abnormal, he will abandon me. Despair and pain overwhelmed me like a tidal wave. Tears welled up uncontrollably, mingling with sweat and blurring my vision. Why? I asked, crying. Why would you do this to me too? My cries were like a heavy whip lashing at his heart. He stopped in his retreating steps. He looked at me, curled up in the snow, weeping in pain, and the struggle in his eyes grew even more intense. The dark red flames and human reason were locked in a fierce battle in his eyes. Finally, as if he had made up his mind, he suddenly closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, the flame representing desire, though not extinguished, was forcibly suppressed by an even stronger willpower. He strode up to me, took off his heavy coat, and wrapped me up completely from head to toe, blocking out the fragrance that kept emanating from me. Then, he bent down and picked me up horizontally. Hold on tight. He only said these 3 words, his voice extremely tense. He carried me and raced through the snow, covered forest at an incredible speed, heading towards the castle. The wind whistled in my ears, and my body bounced in his arms. Even through his thick coat, I could still feel his burning body temperature and his heart pounding like a drum. I didn't know where he was taking me, or what awaited me. All I know is that he didn't abandon me during my most painful, ugliest, and most out of control moments. He carried me and rushed back to the castle. Along the way, All the werewolves who smelled the strange fragrance became restless. The guards in the castle slumped over, their eyes glazed over, losing their usual vigilance. "Everyone step back," Alistair roared authoritatively. Alpha's command instantly subdued the out-of-control werewolves. Although they were still drawn by the aroma, they dared not approach any further, their expressions filled with awe and fear. He kicked open my bedroom door, gently placed me on the bed, and then locked the door behind him. There were only the two of us left in the room. The fragrance, which had been temporarily blocked by the coat, once again spread unrestrainedly, instantly filling the entire room. Alistair's breathing became heavy once again. He had his back to me, his hands braced against the door, his tall figure appearing tense and dangerous in the moonlight. "Alistair," I curled up on the bed, trembling in pain. "Save me." He didn't turn around. "Ella, listen to me." His voice seemed to be squeezed out from the depths of his throat, each word carrying immense restraint. "You are not trash, nor are you defective. You are the legendary wolfless scientist who appears only once every few centuries. You do not possess the bloodline of the wolf god, but you possess the purest power of the moon goddess. On the day of your coming-of-age ceremony, the power of the moon goddess will activate the mark on your body. This mark will grant you the ability to soothe and purify all violent energy, but at the same time, before it is fully stable, it will cause you an uncontrollable craving. Your scent is the most deadly poison to all werewolves." His words were like a thunderclap, exploding in my chaotic mind. The scientess of no wolf, the power of the moon goddess. How could this be? I am just a monster even my family despises. The only way. He turned around with difficulty and walked towards me step by step. His face was covered in sweat, and in his silver-gray eyes, desire and reason intertwined in a blood-red hue. He was enduring far greater pain than I was. "The only way is to unite with your destined partner, with the power of Alpha. We will help you regulate and guide the rampaging Luna power within you and complete the final contract." He stood beside my bed, looking down at me. "Once the contract is fulfilled, you will belong to me forever. Your joys and sorrows, your life, will be inextricably linked to mine." He reached out and tremblingly touched my cheek. His fingertips were burning hot, like a cluster of flames, and wherever they touched, they made the desire within me burn even more fiercely. "I am your destined partner, Ella. I can save you." But he looked at me intently, with a hint of vulnerability and pleading I had never seen before. "I need your permission. Ella, tell me, will you? Let me be your partner." In the midst of a torrent of desire and pain, this sentence, like a lighthouse, instantly illuminated my chaotic consciousness. He was clearly driven to the brink of madness by his instincts, yet he still sought my consent. He could have taken advantage of my loss of control, forcibly possessed me, and fulfilled the so-called contract. But he didn't. He handed the choice to me. I looked into his bloodshot eyes, and at his body trembling as he tried so hard to hold back his emotions. What I saw was not an alpha driven by desire, but a man who was using all his willpower to defend my dignity. Rowan's face, Celine's face, my father's and mother's faces, all those who had ever hurt me vanished in that moment. My whole life has been a passive acceptance of fate's arrangements. I've been abandoned, humiliated, and betrayed. This is the first time someone has returned the right to choose to me. I opened my dry lips, and with all my might, managed to utter a clear sound. "I do."